Welcome back, everyone, to the STB as in bag podcast, the Secure the Bag podcast. I'm your host, Rachel. You can call me Ruby, whatever you prefer. My real name or my stripper name, that's fine. So this is going to be the very first episode where I actually go back into all of my reflections from when I danced, because if you didn't listen to the first episode, basically, once I got more comfortable and used to dancing, about maybe like 6 months in, I started reflecting every single night that I went to work. So what I would do is after work, I would come home, I would put how much I made in like a Google Doc, like just a regular Word. I would put how much I made, and then I would reflect on the night. No matter how much I made, it didn't matter. I was always honest, and I put down like how the night went, and I never looked at it after that. Like, I just did it because I had no one to talk to. My parents didn't know what I did. My friends didn't know what I did. Only 2 people in the world knew what I did. And I never really got value out of sharing how I feel, like my feelings, like telling other people, because I feel like at the end of the day, people really don't give a fuck about your feelings, you know? So I just really didn't get any value. And I feel like even after trying to express myself to people, it still didn't make me feel better at the end. And I never really got the advice that I was looking for. So talking to myself helped a lot, reflecting, telling myself what I did good, what I could do better. And mind you, I've made a ton of mistakes, and I've admitted to all of them in these, so you're going to literally get every single part of it, and all the crazy things that happen in the strip club, all the shit that you guys really want to hear, right? So I'm going to look through my very first one, at least from what I can see. It goes all the way back to 2019, and I worked a lot. My first year, I technically started dancing in September of 2018, but I did all of 2019, and on average I was working like 12 days out of the month, so I was working less than half the month, which really isn't a lot. And 2020 COVID hit, so I worked even less. And then 2021 I really ramped it up. Like I told myself, if I only work like on average 3 days out of the week, well, let's see how much more I can make if I work 4 days out of the week. So I started doing that in 2021, and then end of 2021 I realized I'm already about to be at my 4 years next year of dancing, and it's time for me to let it go. So I'm going to go hard 2022, hardest I've ever gone, work as much as I've ever worked. And I fucking did. And I think already for 2022, I quit in September, okay? And it's about to be December now. So I've been out of work for like 2.5 months now. Let's see if because I keep track of my fucking numbers. It's the funniest thing. Okay. 2019, I worked 115 days out of the year. 115. 2020, I worked 109 days out of the year. 2021, I worked 152 days out of the year. I increased it by like 30 days, 35, 37 days compared to 2019 to 2021. So I guess I got an extra month in there. And then, I haven't even put how much I worked in 2022. I haven't done my numbers. I have all my month's earnings and stuff, but anyways, that's a different story. Okay, so to bring it back to one of my very first ever, it's looking like April in 2019 is when I first started like reflecting. So let's see. Okay, and I didn't. Oh my fucking God, this is a long one too. This is gonna be good. So at this point in April of 2019, I was working in Vegas, and originally I wanted to kind of like keep up with my stories somehow. So my first initial thing that I did was I created like some free blog called Strip For It. Like, I don't know where the fuck I come up with these stupid ass names, but literally I called it Strip For It, and I would put like tips in there, and I would write like, maybe I could do this better. And it was kind of like a reflection, but it was also like an advice column. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to start keeping these things personal, because literally exactly how I talk is how I go on paper with these blogs. Half the time I'm tipsy or drunk as fuck. And, I am like completely myself. So I finally started writing these blogs in April of 2019 and actually reflecting, but some of them don't have the numbers on it yet. So I think later on in the year, I started actually putting like how much I made that night to be able to just know, based on like how my story goes. Like I kind of want to know how much I made, right? So this one doesn't have it, but this one dates back to Now I gotta go back. Oh, here we go. April 24th, 1995. 2019. Okay, so here we go. Tonight was very fucking weird, to say the least. I had like 5,084,629 guys lead me on to think I was going to the bank and about to cash in big with rooms, then basically flake and run out the back door. Is it just me, or are their wives yelling at them in their head? Who knows? And if you're a stripper, all you're thinking is, who cares? I had quite a few guys take me to a room, 5 if I'm correct. Over a rack on a Wednesday? I think yes. So obviously I made over 1,000. It's funny because today almost every guy I took to a room wanted to go because they didn't want to get a dance in public. That almost never happens. Almost all guys want, like, let me get a $20 dance, like, right here in front of everybody, you know? And I don't give a fuck. I'm never too prideful to do a $20 dance or a $40 dance, whatever the fucking amount is, the basis of the club. Because a lot of the time, if you don't have a shit load of an ego, a lot of guys like that you're willing to give them like a taste, you know what I mean? Like there's so many girls that are like, oh, I only do rooms, but then you go back to the room with them and they're fucking just sitting there. I've had so many times, like, and mind you, again, I have rules, like, I've worked at really good clubs where you can't get away with that shit, and nor would I ever want to do that shit, if you know, catch my drift, you know? But I've been in so many rooms where girls literally will just sit there with the customer and not give them dances, like not even work for their fucking money. Like they just think this guy wants a conversation. I never assume a guy just wants a conversation unless he literally says, hey, just sit down. You don't need to dance. You don't need to work. Just talk to me. And that rarely fucking happens. These motherfuckers want what they paid for. And if they don't get it, you're going to get, basically people are going to complain. And whether the managers have your back or not, most of the time they're going to put you in check and they're going to suspend you, potentially fire you if you get enough of those complaints. I really can't stand these girls that don't fucking put in the work. Like it's ridiculous. Anyway, so I said that almost never happens, but they were all pretty handsy. Almost all guys are, but some are a little cray. They'll do anything to push the limits. I had a real fucking character tonight, though. First, I thought he was a cop because he would not stop asking me for coke. This guy. He would not fucking quit. Does everyone think we do drugs or something? LOL, not I. Anyways, then he took me to a room and almost... I can't say this shit. Oh my God, bro. I literally have not read this in over 3 years. Like, this is fucking bonkers. Okay. Anyways, then he took me to a room and almost busted in his pants because I was literally rubbing his chest. Okay? I was not rubbing his wee-wee. I think it was because he was getting a tingling sensation in his nipples. Bro, why? I'm so sorry, Izzy. Izzy's literally like behind the camera like, what the fuck? Okay. Okay, I said to myself, here goes the first of many. I plan to work the next 17 days straight with the goal of 20K. We're going to figure out if I worked all those days because I'm usually going to go in like a straight pattern. But anyway, when you find yourself constantly working due to a specific goal, you got to learn to manage your expectations because the reality is you're going to have loads of guys and some girls piss you the fuck off, lead you on, and make you feel lesser than. But you have to stay strong. Your goals are bigger than one bad night or one annoying moment. Here's another tip for you. Always ask for a tip. I made that mistake tonight. I haven't been to the club in almost a week and sometimes tend to fall out of my groove or lose momentum. My first private room I did tonight, I didn't even ask for a tip. I don't know if I was just too nervous or what, but I literally beat myself up for it. After that, I didn't go the rest of the night without asking every single guy for a tip after spending time with them. And guess what? I made way more fucking money. That shit adds up. So long story short, always ask for a tip. Look at the bigger picture, and of course, keep slaying. And then as I continue to like write these blogs, I basically will put like secure the bag, and then I'll signature it with Ruby. So mind you, secure the bag, you know, like ironic, right? So that was literally 3 years ago, and I'm actually really surprised with how much growth is in that blog because I remember in 2019, I was so like naive. I was so cocky. I was so selfish, honestly. Like, I made a lot of mistakes while dancing, and I used to be this girl that never wanted to work with other girls because I want all the money for myself. I always did everything I could to try to like basically drain a man to where if he left this room, like, I got all the money that he's gonna spend tonight. You know, like, if another girl approaches him, he will not spend a dime. That's how I was. And it's fucking exhausting. Like, I made a good amount of money in 2019. I even made a good amount of money in 2020 when I was like that. 2021, 2022 were really my years of like selflessness, where I felt way more comfortable in my body. I felt way more comfortable with my personality. I really was just like more so not greedy, and that made me a shit ton more money. And those are the type of moments that I'm super grateful for. And some shit like this is just fucking crazy. Let's see if we can find another one. That's hilarious though. Like, the first one, I remember when I first started making these little like tips. I don't even remember what I would put in some of them. I feel like I still have them, but I don't even know what my tips were. That's why I'm like, I can't give too many fucking tips because I'll get tired of it. Okay, this one is, oh my God, I'm trying to stay on track of these 17 days, right? I told myself I want to work 17 days in a row. So this is the next day, April 25th, 2019. Again, living and working in Vegas. I said, it's going to be a long 17 days ahead. Do you think I can do it? Do you think I can make $20,746? I don't know where the fuck that number came from. That's so funny. I said, shit, stay tuned. As dancers, if this is our first ever real exposure to large amounts of money in cash, same day, it's easy to always want more. Then when more isn't enough, we may catch our attitudes towards people and situations become a little different. Oh, this is I just asked. Oh, I even said, I was like, I still have some of my tips. I know I have them in here. This is literally one of them. This is literally one of the blog posts, like the actual blog post that I created on that little free website that I converted into a blog. That's fucking hilarious. Okay, so how do you set money goals and actually attain them without getting caught up in the greed? Keep reading. What's your average? Number one, what's your average? Question mark. I remember when I started making 3 times more at a new club by working 50% less. I started to tell myself, I'm going to make over $1,000 every single night, non-negotiable. My attitude and expectations were at an all-time high. But I think I forgot one very little detail. Nothing is guaranteed, literally. And I'm telling you, this club where I was like, oh, I'm going to make $1,000 a night minimum, it's inevitable. There's nights where you make under 1,000 and shit, almost nothing, literally. And sometimes, you get to work and you're like, I really didn't want to be here. And if you're just not in the mood, you're not like wanting to talk to anyone. It's just not. Sometimes I'm just like, I'll just come back tomorrow and, refresh. Sometimes that's needed. So when I think back to the time I had just began to dance in the club and I met an ex-stripper with her hubby, she told me, you'll usually know what you'll make on average within 4 weeks. So I met a girl. I think this is the same one that recommended the club that I work at in Vegas that was like, if you make less than 1,000 on a Tuesday, you'll be fucking pissed. That's the same lady. She came in with her husband and she said, you'll usually know what you'll make on average within 4 weeks. And I guess, that's pretty accurate and that's pretty true. I think as you just continue to grow in the industry, you're pretty familiar with what your averages are. And if you're familiar with your club and you're not constantly bouncing around, you're also going to know what your averages are. So here's the real scoop, ladies. I guess I don't agree with her. There's so many variables that come into play when you're on that floor. Floor meaning like the main floor of the strip club where all the customers are and all the girls. Here's the questions. How many girls are there? How many guys are there? Does the customer you're even talking to have money? Like, is he even trying to spend? Like, you should be able to tell if he's trying to spend. And if you can't tell, ask. Like, that's one of the other things too. When I first started, I would literally sit there with them, have a great conversation, right? But when the conversation got dull, I wouldn't ask, oh, hey, like, let's go do a dance. I would just sit there and I'd be like, And then I make the guy ask. I fucking am beating myself up right now even thinking about it. Like, it just is so cringe, like, that I would make a guy ask me. A guy will ask, like, he'll come up to you and out of nowhere, like, you haven't even had a conversation with him yet, but if he likes the way you look, he'll come and be like, hey, you want to get a dance? That's normal. But when you're just sitting there and you're just like waiting for him to ask, just ask, bro. And like, it took me so much time to get comfortable, but like, as I continue to ask over and over and over, it's literally second nature, and you can have fun with it. Like, I used to be like, I'm so weird. I'll be like, let's go to my dungeon. Like, I would just be saying some weird ass shit, you know, or like stripper heaven, like whatever. So have fun with it. Anyway, did he already go to a room earlier and feels wiped out? Like, some guys will come out of rooms and they'll just be like, oh, like, Lorraine took all my money, like whatever the girl's fucking name is. I don't know any Lorraines that strip, so Lorraine took all my money. I don't have any more money, blah, blah, blah. Most of the time they do, but maybe if they had a bad experience, like, it's going to be very hard to like bring them back and have them spend more money on you just because you're nice, you know, or you're pretty. So it really just depends. I love a challenge, so I'm going to try anyway. And I'm gonna make sure that I tell him, like, hey, I like a challenge. Like, we're going to figure this out, you know? And then with time and talking to him, you know, you can make some money. Does he like the way you look, talk, and act? So you can kind of tell if a guy's feeling you. Like, if he lets you sit with him, he obviously is going to think you're, you know, pretty attractive. Especially if you ask. I mean, if you just sit down and you just start talking to him, obviously you don't know if he's attracted to you. But if he's, like, kind of opens up, if he encourages you to sit down, if he asks you if you want a drink, fuck yeah. He more than likely thinks you're attractive. And then obviously the way that you carry yourself, the way that you talk, the way that you flirt, those things all come into play. And like I said, you can tell by body language, physicality, how they're speaking to you. If they're intrigued in the conversation, you're going to know if they're interested within the first 5 minutes. And if you don't, well, then he probably isn't. And you should ask anyway. I never will walk away from anyone without asking, because there's been so many missed opportunities where, like, I never asked, and then another girl goes up to him and she asks, and she goes to like a 3-hour room. So you don't want to be that girl. I think you get the point. Also, depending on what club you're at and the location, you'll be able to know what your averages tend to be. And it all depends. Like I said, I've worked in Vegas and I know my averages there. I've worked in Texas, know my averages there. But if I'm going to a brand new club in New York that I've never worked at, I don't know my averages. Even though I've worked at one club in New York, or a couple actually, but like my main club in New York, I know my averages. But then another club that I've never worked at in New York, I don't. And it all depends. For myself, I'll work about 3 days in a row during the week, and by the time I count all my money, once the 3 days are done, I'll average out to about $1,000 a night, maybe more. And that's when I was doing my numbers in 2019. So my goal is to make over $20,000 in 17 days. It isn't unrealistic just based off of my history. So I can make a little over $1,000 a day. And if you're working like multiple days in a row, and I've learned this because I used to work like multiple days in a row. The most I've ever worked in a row is like 23 days. And that was in September before I quit, because I told myself I want to go out with a fucking bang. So, yeah. So the more you work too, the more comfortable you get, and the more excited, I mean, at least for me, the more excited I am to go to work. Like, after I finished those 23 days, I had like a big retirement party, like coming out party of being a stripper. And I was still ready to go back to work. I was like, I'm not done. Like, I can continue to do more. But I was like, no. I told myself I want to leave on top. I want to leave when I'm energized. I want to leave when I feel like I've made, like, the money that I wanted to make. And I don't want to leave because I have to. I don't want to leave because I got fired. I want to leave with, like, my head held high. So if you don't know your averages, you got to count your money and keep track. This also helps with tax purposes, but that's a whole different topic. I think that when I first started dancing, I really didn't give a fuck about taxes, or like I was just depositing my money here and there, not keeping track of it. And, you know, if you want to get approved for like a house, or if you want to open up a business, or you want to basically do anything, get approved for an apartment, which a lot of girls that are new dancers, like the first thing they want to do is move out of their mom's house or move out of their fucking aunt's house, whatever. You gotta have like some type of history, or you're gonna live in like a shit shack, which you can, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. There's levels to it all. But I mean, if you're making like almost $10,000 a month, don't you think you want to live in like a decent apartment, you know? And you can't do that if you're not showing like bank statements. So And don't do the illegal shit either where you fucking hire someone to make fake bank statements. All right. Homework for yourself is to go into work a couple times this upcoming week, count your money at the end of the night, and put it in your notes. This is literally what I do. Do that for the next 4 to 8 weeks straight and see how much you've made. Then it should be pretty clear what your averages are. So step 2, set goals with your money. Having money is a blessing. If we really think about it, us strippers are more well off than most adults in their 30s and up. You may make a lot of money, but if it's one of your first exposures to a lot of cash, it's really easy to spend it. That's probably one of my hardest fucking disciplines, is to not spend all the money that I make. And I had to read books, and I had to continue to watch YouTube videos. And I already, before I was dancing, I was in sales, and we went to tons of fucking seminars, and they were always talking about finance, and I knew all the things that I was supposed to do. But for whatever reason, when you touch money, it's just like you're a dancer, you know that you can make it the next day. Oh, I'm gonna make it back. And it's like that hustle mentality. But then things come up where your parents need $25,000. You have debts that you haven't paid off. You need to pay those off. You have loans or whatever. It's just getting rid of those burdens is so much. It is basically the first step before you can actually go then and invest your money into something new, like a business. I would rather pay off my debts first and then get myself in more debt to basically build a business or to get an asset that'll make me money. So I'm not saying to lock up your cash and never touch it. Hell no. Enjoy that shit. Enjoy it. Fuck, I definitely did. Go travel, help out your family, go to the club and buy a booth just so you can show the men who the real boss is. That's literally a vibe. Literally. I used to go, one of these girls that I used to hang out with all the time. 2021 was a year of spending money. It was constant. And me and this girl that I used to be super close with, we are the same in the sense of independence. We don't want to have to rely on anyone. We're not afraid to go to a club and we don't want to beg for tables. We don't want to have to get put in some random guy's booth just to enjoy some champagne. No, we're going to go fucking purchase that shit ourselves. Because at the end of the day, I like to have control over the space that I'm in, and I like to feel comfortable. And if I don't feel comfortable in someone else's section, even if they invite us and that's friendly of them, I've done that before, where I'll go into someone else's booth and they'll offer us liquor, and I'm all for it, whether I know them or not. But when it comes to not feeling comfortable, or especially in Vegas, if a promoter isn't fucking with you, I would rather fucking eat shit than sit in a table where I'm not welcome. Fuck that. So, but at the end of the day, you got to somehow keep it and have safety nets set up for the future. Nothing's worse than a broke stripper. I've heard this over and over and over again. How are you going to be a stripper and be broke? How are you going to be a stripper and be broke? Girls will get in fights in the locker room and just start calling each other, you're a broke bitch, you're a broke. But really, everybody makes money, But nothing is worse than being a broke stripper. Constantly having to go into work just to make your fucking $2,000 to $3,000 car payment that you went and you got, because you know how much you're making per month, right? But if you're draining it every month, you constantly have to do it over and over. And one of my biggest fears when I was dancing was what if I break my fucking leg? What if I break my arm? What if I sprain my ankle, which I've done, and I'm out of work for 2 weeks to a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever the doctor recommends? Then what? You have to have a safety net. What if there's a pandemic? Then what? What if you get fired from the best club in the city that makes you the most money? Then what? There's a safety net is essential, right? And it's a process, it's ups and downs. You got to learn from your mistakes. You got to spend the money to realize that, you should probably be saving it, or at least putting some of it away for a rainy day, whatever. But shit, yeah. Those are just things to think about, So, oh my God, I'm so corny. I put in here, I said LMAO, #true. Oh my God. Okay. So as dancers, we have a shelf life. Like any professional athlete, once you hit a certain age, you can no longer do the things you used to. Your body and life is always changing. So let's start with this. Then we'll continue on in another post strictly about managing money and investing it. But for now, this is what I want you to do. And you guys can do this if you don't. If you want. This was just from my little old days of trying to do like tips and stuff online. So number 1, track how much you make. Number 2, track how much you spend. Still do this to this day. Go find a piece of paper, and every time you spend anything more than a penny, you track it. Now I just keep track of like all my bank statements and things, but honestly, as I spend money, like I put it in my notes. Like I continuously like am putting like how much I spent in my notes, and I also have a bookkeeper, but I like to double check everything. I'm just organized like that. You guys do not. I know a lot of people aren't. So there's tons of fucking apps out there for you to be able to keep track. Even your bank probably has like a spender that you can see how much you spent and on what categories. All right, just like every week you see your averages for money made, check your averages for money spent. Look at all the dumb shit you're buying and stop it. Cut that shit out if you know it's pointless, and watch the money pile up, because money saved is money earned, baby. Hope this helps. Drop a comment below. That's enough. Secure the bag. Ruby. So, yeah, those were just 2 days worth of me ranting about work, which is fucking nuts, because in some of these posts I won't go, like I'll skip over like the ones where maybe I made like, let's just say like $550. Like or when I go on a rampage of working, I'll work like 6 days in a row, and every single night, like I'm working all these hours, and I'll come home and I'll be fucking exhausted. I don't feel like blogging, so I'll be like, oh, I'll blog the next day, and then I'll wake up late, and then I'll be like, fuck, I need to get ready for work, or oh, I have all these errands to do, and then I'll blog like 3 to 4 days worth of like work days in one blog, if that makes sense. So I'll put all these days in one blog, and maybe I'll talk about it, maybe I won't, but if they're really short and it's just like a basic ass day where nothing really happened, then I probably won't talk about it. I want to keep you guys with like the juicy shit. I want you guys to know like how this shit really goes. The first one I would say is juicy, but the second one was practical. So I hope you guys got some value. Make sure to subscribe. If you guys have anything you want to share with me, any questions, definitely feel free to leave a comment below, and I will see you guys next time.